number 32.
A few positions back, we heard a song by the Boston group Boston. Well, here's another group from the home of the bean and the cod. They call themselves The Cars, and this is their first top 40 hit. Moving up 2 notches to number 32, here are The Cars and Just What I Needed.
I don't mind coming here.
Survey song number 32, moving up 2 notches, 3rd week on the chart. The Cars and Just What I Needed. 31 big ones to number 1 as we count them down.
American Top 40.
Every week, American Top 40 is heard in our 50 states and around the world on such great radio stations as WQOK, Greenville, South Carolina, KOYE, Laredo, Texas, and Commercial Radio, Hong Kong. The tune at number 28, 5th week on the chart this week, is the first hit song by a group out of Boston who call themselves The Cars. Here's Just What I Need. The Cars at number 28 on American Top 40. They move up 4 with Just What I Needed. This is Casey Kasem on American Top 40 in Hollywood. And now, my story of how the world's most famous painter of beautiful women, Vargas, was brought out of retirement by a teenager. A popular rock group needed an eye-catching cover for their new album, and their drummer suggested they go with an old-style pinup picture. And the most famous of all of those were the Vargas girls, who first became known on the pages of Esquire magazine during the 40s and 50s. They were the creation of Spanish-born artist Alberto Vargas, and later the Vargas girls became known to a new generation when Playboy magazine began featuring his work. Well, this rock band contacted Mr. Vargas, only to find that he was now in his 70s and had retired 5 years ago. Furthermore, he felt he had lost his touch. So that would have been the end of it, if Vargas hadn't mentioned the offer to his 16-year-old grandniece, Patty. When she found out that the group he had turned down were the Cars, her favorite rock band, she pleaded with her uncle to paint their album cover. So Alberto Vargas, the master of the pinup painting, picked up his brushes, dusted off a canvas, and created the cover of the Cars' current hit album, Candio. A pretty girl in a leotard lying on the hood of a sports car. The Cars were delighted, Patty was thrilled, and Alberto Vargas found out that he hadn't lost his touch. A song from that album debuts on American Top 40 this week. At number 37, here are the Cars and Let's Go. The Cars on American Top 40, the 5-man group formed in Boston back in '77 with Let's Go at number 37. 36 big ones to number 1 and counting down.
The hits from coast to coast.
This is Casey Kasem on AT40 in Hollywood, and here's a hit by a band that hasn't spent more than 2 weeks recording either of its million-selling albums. The Cars leader recently told us that if you have to spend more time than that, you're not playing rock and roll. This week, the Cars dropped 15 notches to number 29 with Let's Go. The Cars, who last week were at 14, where they peaked, fall to number 29 this week with Let's Go.
It's from coast to coast.
Now we're up to the latest hit by the Cars, the rock band that once stopped a Major League Baseball game. It happened just last summer, in August to be exact, at Metropolitan Stadium near Minneapolis. It was a game between the Minnesota Twins and the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, they had started early enough so that the game should have been over easily by 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's when the Cars' road crew had to start setting up for the scheduled concert that night. But at the end of the 9th inning, the score was 5-5. So the game went into extra innings. But neither the Twins nor the Blue Jays could push a run across. Goose eggs kept piling up on the scoreboard as the innings went by. And at the end of the 14th, the score was still 5-5, and the time was 5 p.m. So the senior umpire stepped onto the diamond, raised his hands, and said something like, "Game called on account of rock." So the ball players headed for the showers, and the roadies took over the stadium to set up for the Cars concert that night. And if any other recording act has ever stopped a Major League Baseball game, we haven't heard about it. That interrupted game, by the way, was completed a few days later, the Twins winning 7-5. Now, here are those game-stopping Cars, their current smash holding at number 4 for the 3rd straight week. It's Shake It Up.
Shake it up.
The Cars on American Top 40 at number 4 again this week, 3rd week in a row. Shake It Up. Next up, the 3 biggest hits in the USA.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Now we're up to the latest hit by a band whose keyboard player has an unusual hobby. He collects anything that has to do with robots. Greg Hawkes of the Cars says, I have a huge collection of Japanese toy robots. I'm a big fan of cheap science fiction movies, magazines, comics, anything with robots in it. That's another side of Greg Hawkes, the Cars keyboard player. And this week, the Cars are at number 19 in our survey with their 6th top 40 hit, You Might Think. The Cars, in 3 short weeks, they're at number 19 on American Top 40 with You Might Think.
The hits from coast to coast.
Now, we're up to the latest hit by a popular band who recently learned something the hard way, that being a headline act at a big outdoor concert isn't always a good spot to be in. Just a few weeks ago, the very popular band from Boston called The Cars played in the Gold Country of Northern California at the Mountain Air Festival. It was a concert attended by more than 25,000 people who had spent the day listening to the music of the band called Rat, followed by Berlin, then Huey Lewis and the News. And late in the day, The Cars took the stage as the show's big headliner. But within minutes after they started playing, the members of the band were horrified to see thousands of people streaming away from the stage, heading for the parking lot. What was going on? Was their music that bad? Well, the Cars later discovered that the people were leaving because at last year's Mountain Air Festival, a massive traffic jam developed on the small country roads leading away from the concert site. And so as soon as a few people started leaving, others packed up and left too, so they wouldn't be stuck for hours on the road. And that's why the Cars came to be playing to a crowd that kept getting smaller and smaller, even though they were the headliners. Here's the band who recently learned that being last at a concert may be prestigious, but not always advantageous. The Cars at number 16 with Magic. The Cars, one of 16 groups in our countdown this week, at number 16, falling 4 notches with Magic. 15 big ones to number 1, and the countdown continues.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
At number 20 in the survey is the hit by The Cars, a band who, like some other acts, like to listen to their recordings on car speakers before they release them. The Cars' Rick Ocasek says, the car test is the test. I always do it. The speakers are right in your ears. Close the windows and you're in your own world. I'll often just run out of the studio with a cassette of the mix and play it in the car. If it sounds good, then I say yes. End of quote from Rick Ocasek of The Cars, who depends on car speakers to let him know if their recordings are right. Here's one that passed the test. At number 20 this week, it's Magic, The Cars. The Cars on American Top 40 with Magic falling from 16 to 20 in our countdown.
The hits from coast to coast.
This next song is Why Can't I Have You? It's by that very successful Boston band who started out back in the early 1970s under the name Richard and the Rabbits, featuring musicians Rick Ocasek, Ben Orr, and Greg Hawkes. That band broke up. Then those musicians got back together a couple of years later and called themselves Captain Swing. Then they recruited guitarist Elliot Easton, then drummer Dave Robinson, and changed their name to The Cars. Their 10th top 40 hit climbs a notch this week to number 34. The Cars and Why Can't I Have You?
Dreamy lips.
The Cars at number 34, moving up a notch, 3rd week in the countdown with Why Can't I Have You? From the LP, Heartbeat City.
Casey's Coast to Coast. Number 31.
Here's the latest hit by The Cars, the Boston band whose tall, lanky leader is Rick Ocasek. Rick told writer Lisa Robinson, growing up, I had to deal with all those things about being the tall, skinny one on the block. My nickname was Noodle. I actually did hang out with a pretty rough bunch, and I think they had me as part of the group because I was skinny. But they protected me and were actually pretty nice guys. End of quote. Here's grown-up Noodle Ocasek and The Cars at number 31 with You Are the Girl. The Cars cruising up 5 notches to number 31 with You Are the Girl. First hit from their new album, Door to Door. On American Top 40, I'm Casey Kasem. We're counting down the hottest hits in the land, and they don't stop till we reach the top.
The hits from coast to coast.
At number 23 is a group who have turned down millions of dollars for something they believe in. You see, the Cars say practically every day they get an offer to promote some product or company. But group leader Rick Ocasek says that's not their style. He says even though some of our songs are very pop-sounding, they're also heartfelt, and there is some artistic integrity involved. As a songwriter, I would never use my music to enhance a product. End of quote from Rick Ocasek. Here he is in the countdown with a song he wrote at number 23 this week. The Cars with You Are the Girl. You Are the Girl. The Cars vying for position in the countdown. This week they move up 3 notches to number 23. This is Casey on American Top 40.
Casey's Coast to Coast. Number 19.
We're up to the newest hit by the Cars, whose leader, Rick Ocasek, is making more than music these days. He's acting in an upcoming movie called Hairspray, and get this. Rick, who stands 6'4", is playing opposite the petite Pia Zadora, who's 4'11". Their boyfriend and girlfriend. Creative casting from director John Waters. Now, here's Rick playing and singing on the Cars' 13th Top 40 hit. At number 19, You Are the Girl. The Cars with the first single from their newest album, Door to Door. Song's called You Are the Girl. This week at number 19, climbing 4 notches. I'm Casey Kasem on American Top 40 in Hollywood.
Casey's Coast to Coast.